Hi, this is Gary Audin. I'm bringing you an EDUcast going beyond open source PBX, sponsored by Sangoma and Telecom Reseller. With me today is Tony Lewis, Vice President of Sangoma U.S. And let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this presentation. We're focusing on open source software. We call it OSS. Who is using this? Then we move into Asterisk for communications. We're going to discuss why you need to add modules to open source software, discuss the sensitivity to hardware and connected devices, or actually the independence of hardware and connected devices. We'll move into what Sangoma is offering, something called FreePBX, and then we'll give you some resources so you'll learn more after we finish this presentation. So let's define open source software. First of all, it's computer software. It's source code. It's a license. But it gives you a freedom that proprietary software doesn't give you, and that is you have the rights to study, change, distribute without restriction with this license. So this gives everyone who gets this software a chance to add to its operation, to enhance its capabilities. One of the things I found, and I looked at a survey, is that open source software has become far more popular in the last few years than you might have expected. Look at some of the figures I'm showing you here. 68% say they're going to use open software somewhere in their operation. They're also going to create software. Their use of open software has increased dramatically since 2014. Many are participating in projects out there. Many are expecting to increase their contributions out there. And they look at open source software before they look at other options. And if you're interested in this survey, the link is at the bottom. Now, I'd like to introduce Tony Lewis now, and he's going to start us off with talking about Asterisk, a platform for communications.
So FreePBX itself has been based on top of Asterisk. Asterisk is an open source framework for building communication platforms and applications. Asterisk itself will take an ordinary computer and turn it into your PBX or communication system. There are millions and millions of Asterisk-based communication systems out in the world in more than 220 countries. Asterisk itself is sponsored by the company Digium.
So let's go through a little of that history for us.
Okay, so Asterisk itself was released in 1999 when Mark Spencer, the original creator of Asterisk, released the initial source code under the GPL version 2 source license. In 2005, FreePBX, as we know it, gets released as a GUI that lets you manage the Asterisk communication server.
So let's talk about Asterisk itself, because I believe it's become extremely popular.
Yes, so some of these stats that we're going to go over kind of at the FreePBX side, we don't have insight into specific Asterisk stats, but FreePBX itself is in 2 million plus systems around the world, tens of thousands of new installs a month. Lastly, we're able to track well over 40,000 a month. We've had explosive web growth on our website, our forums, our bug trackers, community members from well over 200 countries participating, lots of development from outside developers who help contribute back to FreePBX.
Now, one of the things I noted, though, when I was looking at FreePBX, is always something else that can be added. And would you talk some more about why we need to add to open source out there?
Well, you always need to add new features and functions. We're living in a very fast-paced world, converged mobile and unified communications, and it's being redefined, almost on a monthly basis. So, we're constantly adding new features. One nice thing about open source is anyone can help contribute those new features. Not a single developer has enough resources to go build every feature somebody could ask for.
Now, sometimes when I look at your site, I find there's a whole set of modules. Would you spend a few minutes on what modules you may need to really enhance the open source platform?
Yeah, so Sangoma has released a series of what we call our commercial modules. They like any open source project, there has to be some funding. So we have some modules that can be purchased. They're commercial modules. They kind of extend existing open source features, or they create features that are more for lateral markets like ACD or high availability fault tolerant stuff. believe there's about 18 different enhanced modules that you can purchase from the FreePBX store.
So when I do purchase these, is this something that's easy to install and put together?
Yes, so they install like any other module in FreePBX. So most people who install FreePBX will actually have all the commercial modules already installed. They're just not licensed. So they go to our web store, or from within the FreePBX web admin GUI, they can purchase the modules, and it just activates the license code for them.
I noticed one thing, though, when I was reading about FreePBX is that you're highly hardware independent. Would you go through these 5 pieces of hardware and tell us why FreePBX works with all of them?
So FreePBX itself has tried to be very server independent. We don't lock you into hardware. We don't believe in vendor lock-in wherever possible. So it will install on any x86-based hardware for the most part. Anything, because it's built on top of Linux, anything that Linux will install on, FreePBX generally will install on. So that's at the PBX level. But then we try to stay very agnostic to things like phones and hardware and cards. So FreePBX itself, with the Endpoint Manager module, will configure well over 250 different SIP endpoints out there from 25 plus manufacturers. Same with telephony cards. Of course, we support Sangoma telephony cards. We support other manufacturer cards inside FreePBX.
So what you're telling me is although Sangoma builds a number of these products themselves, I, as a user of this software, I'm not locked into all Sangoma products. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We try to leave it completely open for you, so you could buy our appliances or buy your own servers or build your own servers, buy whatever phones you want, buy whatever telephony cards you want. And of course, when you contact us, we're always going to promote Sangoma hardware where it seems to fit for the customer.
Now, the next slide really talks about administrators and end users. Would you talk about administrating FreePBX and then what the end user sees?
Yeah, so FreePBX itself has an admin interface and a user interface. The admin interface is where administrators go in and manage the phone system, change settings, change call flow, add extensions, anything that kind of deals with an admin level call flow of how you want your calls to interact. And the end user control panel, or what we call UCP, is where end users can go in and manage their own settings, things like turn on or off their follow me, or manage what numbers are called in their follow me, or change their status, send and receive statuses or SMS messages. They can change the buttons on their phone if they want to add some different program buttons, kind of just end user driven.
It sounds like you have sort of a very competitive set of capabilities for both the admin and the end user. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have really focused hard lately. FreePBX history was all about the administrator. And about a year ago, we started out writing this new user control panel that's all geared towards the end user using modern web technologies. So it's very Web 2.0, HTML5 driven, very responsive, works on computers, tablets, mobile phones.
Well, one of the things I thought was interesting is the next slide about the size of what you offer out there, tuning it closer to what the customer needs rather than buying a machine that's possibly too large or a software package that's too great for what you need to do. Could you talk about this for a minute?
Yeah, so FreePBX itself can size, within reason to about anything, multi-thousands of users. Its biggest restriction is your hardware. So Sangoma has come out with a series of what we call our FreePBX appliances. We offer 4 different appliances. They range from the 50 user, 100 user, 300 user, and 1,000 user. And it's all been heavily tested to handle those users and our simultaneous callers that each system was designed for. So to kind of give you some peace of mind, knowing that the hardware you get will handle what we, from a speccing standpoint.
Now, let's go further into FreePBX. Would you give us an overview of what it's all about? Because we've been discussing pieces of it.
Yes, so FreePBX basically is an enterprise-grade Asterisk-based phone system. It takes Asterisk and adds a lot of features and adds a management utility along with those features. it's very modular designed, meaning there are not hundreds, I'm sorry, there's just over 100 modules in FreePBX itself, and each module gives you a feature inside FreePBX. There are also lots of add-ons that people in the community have built that sit in our contributed modules that aren't modules that are maintained by the core FreePBX project, but modules other people have developed. We talk about support from dozens of phone manufacturers and over 250 devices that you can auto-provision. It's been deployed globally around the world. It has multi-language support. So FreePBX is very simple to be localized. We have built a localization tool that's all GUI driven to let outside people come in and localize FreePBX in another language and submit that up, and then it gets packaged out with FreePBX.
I noticed when I was looking at your brochures, you describe FreePBX in a layered concept. Would you go through some of the acronyms we have in front of us?
Yeah, so FreePBX itself sits on what would normally be called a LAMP stack. So in the Linux world, that is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP kind of bundled together. And we like to call it a LAMP stack, which is including Asterisk, since FreePBX requires Asterisk. So you take Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and Asterisk, and you come up with this LAMP stack, and then FreePBX sits on top of it. So there are lots of products out there that will distribute FreePBX in a single ISO that you can download, a disk that you can download and install. So things like FreePBX Distro, which is put out by the FreePBX team, or Asterisk Now, which is put out by Digium, or PBX in a Flash. This kind of makes up this FreePBX ecosystem of people who build on top, who take FreePBX and build a distribution for it.
What can you tell us about what's coming up next? I noticed you're up to number 12 in your releases.
Yes, so FreePBX 12 has been stable for almost a year now. FreePBX 13 has been in alpha for 3-4 months now. It should be going beta in the next few weeks. We're hoping 2 weeks, but maybe 3 weeks, and it should be released beta. We're trying to get into a faster release cycle of FreePBX, and FreePBX 13 was really trying to modernize the GUI, take the things we learned from building the user control panel and bring that back into the admin panel and just standardize and modernize it.
Now, you've talked from Sangoma's perspective. Who is Sangoma? Because not everyone listening knows you.
Yeah, so Sangoma is a hardware software manufacturer in the voice over IP and telephony space as a whole. So their product lines include a full gateway line of FXO, FXS, and T1, E1 gateways. They also have PSTN cards that work with Asterisk, using their WAN pipe drivers, a full SBC line, session border controllers, down to Link appliances with our Link Express that takes Link and bundles it with a bunch of stuff. So Sangoma just loves to integrate solutions in the telephony space.
Now, the people listening in may want to have more knowledge about what we're talking about. Would you discuss some of the resources you have provided here in the next slide?
Yeah, so if you'd like to learn more about kind of the Link offering from Sangoma, you can go to the website on our slide here. Kind of the same with our SBCs, if you'd like to learn more about the Sangoma SBCs. We also have a section here on success stories, different white papers we've done, and a bunch of tutorials that go through different things about Sangoma. And, of course, if you'd like to learn more about FreePBX, you can go to freepbx.org.
So you're up in Canada, but you offer an awful lot of this in the U.S., don't you?
Yes, so Sangoma is a Canadian publicly traded company out of the Toronto area, and then we also have a U.S. division that's based out of Wisconsin. So FreePBX is kind of under the U.S. division. It came through an acquisition Sangoma did in January.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate your time. And we're finished, and I hope everyone learned something worthwhile here.
Thank you.